We on the dot? We are. We are. Good afternoon. Very warm welcome to you. Thank you for coming along to join us and talk about why some manufacturing companies are more successful during a time of crisis. We have the wonderful Rupert Turton here to assist you today. He works with business leaders to help them lead and achieve great things in their business by making small changes that can make a big difference to your bottom line. So over to you, Rupert.
Oh, great. Thanks, Nicola. Quickly before we start, can I just ask that just put your, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a hands up button. Could I just ask you put your hand up? First of all, actually, if you can hear me, just so I know you can hear me. Brilliant. And then let me lower those hands again. Can I also ask you put your hand up if you can see my screen as well? Brilliant. Okay, so we know everything's working. That's great. Right, so we seem to be in a bit of a perfect storm at the moment with COVID and Brexit disrupting supply. The problem is some of us have too much work. Some people have not enough work. The market is changing as a result of COVID. The supply chain is changing as a result of COVID and also, of course, the impact of Brexit. And then a lot of us have our workforce working remotely. So from the point of view of manufacturing businesses, it's a perfect storm in terms of everything happening at the same time. And the answer to some of those questions, I mean, the easy thing or the safe thing to do is possibly to hold more stock to allow you to ride out any changes in supply and supply onto your customers. But of course, that means you've got to have more cash tied up in stock. Cash, of course, costs money, either in terms of you have a loan to pay for the stock, so you're paying interest on the bank loan. Alternatively, of course, it's money that you would otherwise have to spend in other parts of the business. And then to make matters worse, your suppliers are increasing their prices to cover the increased cost of transportation and production costs. And then the final indignity is that also in this climate, it's a lot harder for a lot of us to sell. So much going on at the moment. It's a real perfect storm of things coming together. So what I'd like to talk to you about today, we're going to focus on a number of areas of your business. I wanted to talk a bit about the cash flow, so allow you to make the best use of your money. Talk about processes and what you should be doing. We'll then talk about your delivery systems, talk about automation, improving your customer experience and improve productivity, and then lead on from that into talking about your team as well. So it's getting your team to the point where they allow you to focus on running the business and they can focus on delivering the business. And of course, leading a team is different at the moment. We've got some of our staff working remotely. A lot of us have got, particularly around manufacturing, we have got staff who are having to come in to work, which gives you all the challenges that involves around protection, PPE, social distancing. With the remote staff, you have opposite problems. How do you actually know they're working when they say they are? And so leadership has become more important than ever. And actually, how do you also ensure ongoing communication with all of your staff in these different times? Now, beyond that, I'll also talk a little bit about marketing and sales. A lot of us have moved more to an online business, and how do you generate business in this market where not everybody is conveniently at work as they have been historically. And then finally, of course, having done all that, you need to put a plan together as to actually how are you going to change your business, what you're going to do, and when it's going to take place. And then finally, we'll have a little chat about removing supply issues as well. So that's really what I'd like to talk about today. I suppose before we start, I should give you a little bit of background about myself, my why. So first of all, this is Angela. She's my wife. She's also the other partner in the business ActionCOACH Oakham and Kettering. Beyond that, my kids, very important to me. That's a picture of them and their partners at my daughter's graduation ceremony, which is probably 5 years ago now. I was thinking I'd update that photo, but of course I have no recent photos of us all together this year. So I think we're stuck with that one for a few months more. Then of course, that's my dog, Bruce. I'm quite lucky in that I've always enjoyed work. I've always had jobs that I've enjoyed doing. A big part of my life, of course, as it is with everybody else, and the challenges that that involves taking the business and generating the business, and also, of course, working in other people's businesses as well. And then in my spare time, walking and cycling, if you like, my hobbies and my sports. And then also very important to me, spending time with friends and people, having a good time doing, if you like, group activities, or just as simple as going out for dinner. And for whatever reason, there always seems to be beer involved in that, as in the photo. And then finally, that picture was taken in Bali a couple of years ago, but travel is becoming, I suppose, increasingly important to us. One of the things we've always said we wanted to do. Now the kids have left home, we should have the opportunity to do it, somewhat kiboshed by all the travel restrictions that we have at the moment, and probably going to have internationally for the next few years, but it still allows us to go and see the UK, which in itself I think is a great country. So before we move on, let me just ask a question of you all, actually. Can I just get a show of hands? So put your hands up. All those of you who actually saw an increase in your revenues in the last year. If you just want to pop your hands up. It's about roughly, it's about half of you actually. That's good. About half of you saw an increase in revenue. So my second question to you is, and put this into the chat box, but what changes did you have to make in the last year to your business model? So did you have to introduce new services or products? Did you have a change in the way that you delivered those services or products, or change in your ordering system? What changes have you had to make? Obviously you've all probably made quite a few, but what are the main changes that you had to make in your business in the last year? Just type that into the Q&A box. Okay. Yeah, I suppose the ones we could have guessed. Move to online delivery of training. Oh, actually all moving online, more orders through web than face-to-face. Okay. And then the final question is, which of you have had to furlough staff in the past year as well? Put your hands up if you had to furlough staff in the last year. Oh. Okay, a lot of you had to furlough staff in the last year. I'm afraid it seems to be a symptom of where we are at the moment as well. Question is, of course, with all of those decisions, did you have the information you needed to make the decision when you were looking to change a service or to change your product line, or to change the way you delivered that service? Did you have the information you needed to make that change, or did you have to simply do it on gut feel, what felt right at the time? So when you introduced the new product, did you know it was going to increase your revenue? And that's a bit of a rhetorical question. I suppose there's two parts to the answer. The first is, did you have a financial model that you trusted that allowed you to very quickly forecast the impact of any changes on your business, and of course in particular cash flow? And secondly, having made those changes in the business, how did you confirm those changes were getting the results that you wanted to see in the business? So what is your business trying to tell you? Your business speaks to you whether you realize it or not. The question is, do you then speak to your business? And fundamentally, it's speaking to you through the numbers that the business is generating for you. So the question is, can you read those numbers? And more importantly, I suppose, actually, are you listening to what your business is telling you? So would you recognize a cry for help from your business? Now, all too often, especially with small owner-managed businesses, we see that the business owner relies on their accountant to be the translator between their financial numbers and what is happening inside the business, which, when you think about it, makes very little sense, because you're giving, what, 60, 80 hours a week to your business, sacrificing time with your family, with your friends, and for yourself, actually doing the things you want to do for a business that you never talk to. How bonkers is that? So you see your business is talking to you, but it talks to you in numbers and it talks to you in logic every hour and every day. It's gathering that information, understanding what it's telling you, listening to what your business is telling you. And many, as I said, many business owners abdicate that relationship to their accountant or bookkeeper and are not watching the information that is being presented to them as business owners. And if you recognize any of these symptoms, it's probably partly an issue with what's going on inside your business. And these are the things you need to be focusing on. If you've got a good, well-performing business, if you're in a position where you're most likely not only to survive, but also to thrive, it's knowing that all of these areas are under control. So you can obviously read the slide, but the resolution to some of these, maybe it's that your finance system is not effective as it needs to be. You need to upgrade your financial systems and the controls that you have in place around it. Maybe it's to do with your staff. Maybe it's possibly you don't have enough staff, or that the staff that you have aren't trained to do, or fully trained to do the roles you're asking them to do. It could be something to do with your cash flow and your cash flow systems not working as they should be. So maybe it's as simple as not being updated regularly, or potentially some of the assumptions that you made in forecasting your cash flow are wrong and have not been corrected. It could simply be that your costs have got out of control, which might mean that you're not recording your expenditure correctly, or you don't have the full controls in place for the costs inside your business. Or, I mean, it could be far more sinister. It could be something like fraud. It might simply be when you priced a project, you got your calculations wrong. So what you thought was a very profitable piece of business is making a smaller profit, or worse still, making a loss. And you don't have the systems in place for reporting the key performance indicators inside your business. And underpinning all of that, of course, everything has to be within a framework. So you need to have a vision and a strategy for your business as to what it's going to do in the future. If you don't have that vision and strategy, you've got nothing to measure the rest of the performance of your business against. So think about what you can do. So first of all, get the accounting systems correct. So concentrate on the main numbers you need to understand. So make sure you understand, well, of course, understand your sales, you understand the purchases that you're making, the expenses that you have, the stock that you have sitting in your warehouse at any point in time, and also, of course, the cash that you have on hand. Have a good look at the order management system, look at the authorization systems that you have in place around your business, and also look at the staff as well. As I said earlier, make sure you've got the right staff in place and they're properly trained to do the jobs you want them to do. It takes time to train them in the first place, but the benefits pay off over time. And then, of course, having got those systems in place, take some time to test the systems, put controls in place. So make sure you've got sales ledger controls, stock ledger controls in place. You are doing regular bank reconciliations and you've got controls around the purchase ledger. Make sure you've not only got the systems in place, but also have those controls to make sure everything is performing as you want it to. Now, if you look at any of those and realize there's things you need to work on, the first thing I'd say to you is management have to be involved in fixing these problems. They're not just going to vanish overnight. And managing the numbers is a little bit like looking after toddlers. If you take your eye off them for even a couple of minutes, they go haywire. So get the numbers right, then make sure you understand what the numbers are telling you. And to do that, think about what reporting systems you need to have in place to tell you what you need to know about your business. And then think about how that translates into long-term projects. And what are the numbers telling you? Honestly, think about what the numbers are really telling you, not what you want to hear. And then use those numbers to help shape your vision for what the business will look up like in the future, and draw up a strategy as to how you're going to get your business to achieve that vision that you've defined. And once you've got the vision, you've got the strategy, you need to put in place a plan to help you get there. So if it's you want to achieve your vision in 5 years, you've obviously got to put a 5-year plan in place, increasingly more detailed. So your 90-day plan needs to be very detailed. Your 1-year plan will be less detailed. Your 3-year plan and 5-year plans less detailed again. But get that plan in place so you know exactly what you've got to do inside the business. But also have a look at your business and make sure you know where you're spending the money. So understand what your variable and your fixed costs are. Variable costs are those that are associated directly with selling your product. The fixed costs are those that you will have regardless of how much you sell, how much of your service you provide, how much product, how many goods you sell. So maybe that's things like your premises. It's probably going to be heating and lighting. Depending on how you do your numbers, it's quite likely to be at least part of your staffing as well. But also actually go back and have a look at your stock holding as well. So have you got more stock in your warehouse than you need for the immediate demand? And ask yourself, how quickly can you replenish? And the reason for asking that is you don't want to be holding more stock, i.e. tying up more money in stock in your warehouse than you actually need to. And then once you've identified the stock you've got, start having some conversations with your suppliers as well. So go back to them and ask if you can have better pricing, or if they won't give you the pricing, maybe better terms. So maybe free delivery of stock to your warehouse, maybe extended payment terms, maybe a quicker delivery. If you're on 5 days delivery, maybe you can get that down to 24-hour delivery, which would probably work better for you as a business. And also look to remove any possible supply issues, particularly at the moment. Remove possible supply issues from your supply chain. A number of your suppliers have probably closed during the pandemic. It seems to be an inevitable part of where we are. A lot of people are moving to a more UK-based supply chain, and also, of course, trying to diversify. Make sure you have a number of suppliers for each of the key components in your production line. And where appropriate, increase stock holding. So if you're worried about supply disrupting your manufacturing, you need to hold a little bit more stock to make sure you cover that. The problem is that, of course, that costs you money. So the trick, as far as you can, is to make sure that your suppliers hold the stock that can get it to you just in time, rather than it sitting in your warehouse using your money, which you could use for other things. Just to explain the concept behind this, a lot of people don't worry so much. Just a quick show of hands, actually. Pop your hands up if you've ever heard of the cash gap before. Oh, good. Yep. About half of you, by the looks of things, have heard of the cash gap. I mean, the big clue, of course, because it's on the screen at the moment. But so basically, your cash gap is the number of days from when you start to spend money on a project until you have been paid in full for that project. So effectively, it's the days that you are funding for your customer. In effect, they're using your money for their business. So if you look at the screen, the top line. So first of all, on day 0, you've ordered some stock, some materials. The inventory arrives on day 0. You then put that into manufacturing, so that gets converted into product, or if you're a distribution business, it's taking that product and just shipping it through to the client. But on day 60, that inventory is then shipped to your client. So it arrives on day 0, it's shipped on day 60. Now, if you then look what that means to the cash line, the inventory arrives on day 0, you're on 30-day terms, so you have to pay for it on day 30. The customer receives their goods on day 60, or the project completes on day 60, but they're on 60-day terms, so you don't get any money from the customer until day 120. The cash gap is the time between when you've had to pay for that inventory and when the customer pays you for whatever work or product you've given to them. It's the time that you are funding your client's business by providing them with the finance for the goods that they have. And as I said earlier, that's going to be either where you've had to borrow the money to bridge the gap, or you've got money in the business that you're having to as you're being tied up in inventory that you can't spend elsewhere to develop the business somewhere else. And currently with COVID and Brexit, the cash, available cash, probably very helpful to you to hold additional raw materials to make sure you can span any gaps in the in your supply chain from a production point of view. Or you might decide actually you want to hold more completed stock, particularly if your business is increasing at the moment. You want to hold more stock to make sure you don't miss an opportunity to sell it to one of your clients. And either way, actually, you're still, as I said earlier, going to be compensating for the disruption in the manufacturing and the supply chain. So there's a number of things that you can do. First of all, you could get your clients to give you to pay up front in effect, so they give you a partial or full deposit at point of contract. You could, of course, finishing projects on time. This is actually really important. If you don't finish the project on time, of course, you are delaying when you're going to get paid. And I also know of companies where actually they only do their invoicing at the end of the month. When this becomes, so if they miss a delivery for the end of February, for argument's sake, and maybe deliver on the 3rd day of March, they're still not going to invoice that customer until the end of March, which has just added an extra 3 weeks onto the invoice time. So when you finish the project, invoice as soon as you've completed the work, as soon as you've delivered it to your client. Then think about the terms you're giving your clients. Is it going to make any difference to your client whether you give them 7-day terms instead of 30-day terms? Massive help to your cash flow situation. Or you could just simply give incentives for early payments. Whether that's a reduction, a discount for early payment, or you have increased payment if they pay later. And also think about your stock holding. I talked about this earlier, but look at your stock holding and potentially look at how you could reduce that stock holding by setting up your stock management system. Set the minimum and maximum levels of stock that you want to hold. Think about doing all of this as just in time. All that said, the bottom line is think about how you are using the numbers, and start with actually, what is your vision for the business? Where are you actually trying to get your business to? What do you want your business to be? How are you going to get there? Because that helps define how you're going to behave within the business. So start. I do a whole session on this, by the way. This is a really cut down version, but start with working out why you're in business in the first place. Then think about what your business does, and then finish off with how it does it. So when I say that, so start off by thinking about the why. So we support, so for ActionCOACH, we support business owners to fulfill their potential and thereby gain freedom of choice. Now, the what we do is somewhat different. So we help local businesses through one-to-one and group coaching or local events. And actually an important rider from our perspective is it's not just those that can pay. And then finish with the how you're going to do that. So in our case, again, it's good coaching tailored for each business owner using the ActionCOACH system. Work out what the vision is for your business, why you're in business, what you do, and how you do it. And that starts to shape how you should be driving the business. And then draw up the strategy to make that vision happen. And as I spoke about earlier, this is all about the planning. What's your short term, your medium term, and your long term plan? And put those milestones in place so you know what you're working towards. And then having done that, fill in the detail of the plan, particularly for the next 90 days. Think about which other parts of the business need to be involved, and make sure that you're bringing all the stakeholders along as well. So if you've got to borrow money to do it, obviously your bank becomes a stakeholder. Make sure that the team members, your team members, are on board. Make sure they are brought in to the plan, whether that's your management team or the people you're expecting to do work. Give them that bigger picture of what the business is looking to achieve. So a slight change of tack now. I just want to talk a little bit about systems as well. And the bottom line to systems, really simple. If that is your product, the product price, the total price, is really made up of two components. The first of those components is the expense involved in making that product or delivering that service. The second part of your overall price is going to be the profit. Pretty much black and white to all of us. The bit that everybody happily forgets is also there's inefficiency in the way our business works, which can eat in quite substantially to our profit margin. And that could be as simple as what used to be referred to as time and motion. So the time or the time and the efficiency with which your team are doing the set tasks they need to do. It could be that because of faulty systems, you're getting substantially more rework on the production line than you need. It could be that you're shipping the wrong product to your customers and therefore having to incur the cost of getting the product returned and shipping out the correct product. And that's ignoring the impact of your reputation in doing that. Or it could be that once your product gets out to the customer, it gets out into the field, you're seeing a very high number of warranty returns and repairs, all of which make the business a lot less efficient. So what you're looking to do is, first of all, reduce the expenses in your business. I think as business owners, we all understand that we have to minimize the costs associated with our business, which in turn allows us to maximize the profit. But underneath all of that, and a substantial impact, is also making sure we get that inefficiency as low as we can to increase the overall profitability. So as a question for you, why would you systemize your business? So actually, even before I do this, do you want to type into the chat box why you would look to systemize your business? What would be the benefits do you see in systemizing the business? Type that into the Q&A box. And even if, as we go through this, if you don't, as you type it in, if you don't want to put it in the chat, in the Q&A box, that's fine, but note it down. If you want to talk about some of this stuff later, quite happy to have a virtual coffee with you after the webinar and talk through some of the issues that you're seeing in your business. While you're all typing in, these are the, if you like, the things that I see as being the reasons to systemize your business. So the first of those is to increase profits. By making your business more effective, having the right systems in place, you increase the profitability of your business. Secondly, it's about making sure that your business delivers consistently for your customers, and therefore every time they engage with you, not only do they get the same experience, but they get the same good experience. And customer experience counts for an awful lot, as we'll see a little bit later in the customer's buying decision. Now, it also removes rework. I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment, but doing it wrong and then having to do it again can be really costly to your business. Now, other benefits of systemizing the business, first of all, it makes it very easy to train the staff. So you don't have to have somebody spend time with a new employee teaching them how to do the job. You can simply give them the manual and a bit of support to get them up and running. And it's also very easy, once you've got the right key performance indicators in place inside the business, it's very easy to see if your staff are doing it the way you want it done. And actually, this great example of this, if you ever get the chance, go to one of the Amazon warehouses and do the tour that they do around the Amazon warehouses. They're actually quite fascinating in the way they operate. As you would expect, Amazon measure absolutely everything within the warehouse and their production systems. But if they see somebody who is running slower than they would expect than the norm, they don't see that as something they should be punished for. It's not a go and beat them with a stick. It's very much about offer them the carrot, and they send over a mentor. They have particularly specially trained mentors working inside the business who will go and work with that employee to help them improve their performance, because typically it's just that they don't quite understand the best way to do that job and to get the performance up to place. They can only do that though by understanding the performance they expect to see at each part of the production line. Now, also systemizing the business, it allows you to employ lower skilled staff, so you can employ good staff who will develop into great staff over a period of time. And of course, bottom line is, if you systemize the business, everybody knows what they need to do. They know what they're being measured on. Think about it in terms of the systems you put in place, run your business, and then you hire the team, you hire the staff to run the systems. Just think about that for a moment, because it's a shift in the way most people think about their business. You run the systems, run the business. The team then run the systems. If you see the difference, great stuff. So, just going to harp on about this a little bit more, actually. So processes are just so important in what the costs they involve. Quick example for you. You've got a product that you're selling with a 10% margin. Once it gets into the field, you're also seeing a 10% return rate. Now, if we try and put a few numbers around that. So for argument's sake, you've got a sales price of £100 and the margin you are making on that product is £10 per unit. However, if you have a 10% return rate, 10% failure rate, 1 in 10 of the units that your business is shipping to your customers will fail. And then you'll have to replace that unit at a cost to you of £90. And that's ignoring the time and the cost of shipping. That's simply to replace the unit. So the bottom line is that for every unit you have to replace, you then have to sell 10 more units to make enough profit to cover the cost of buying that replacement unit. Hopefully that makes sense. Or put another way, to sell 10 units, your business actually has to buy 11 units. Now, do the numbers. If the revenue from selling those 10 units is £1,000 and the cost is £990 to buy those units, your profit is only going to be £10. Why would you bother? So think about what your process is. So the majority of people that we work with don't have systems in place when we start working with them. And those that do, we usually find aren't using those processes consistently inside the businesses. Those that do, the business performs brilliantly, but the majority of customers don't have systems in place. And if they do, they're not using them. And what does your system look like? It can be as simple as a checklist. It could be a script. It could be a workflow, combination of a number of things. So you think about the possibly the business, the global business with the highest level of customer satisfaction. I go with the airlines. So with an airline, if you're thinking about all the frills around going through the terminal and all the check-in, but you just look at the core function of an airline, that's going from A to B as safely as possible. They have possibly the safest and most reliable business that you're ever going to see. And the way that's achieved, you've only got to look at an airline pilot and the checklist that they have to run through, actually even before the plane leaves the stand, the number of checks they have to make on a plane before they leave the stand, and to make sure they don't miss anything, they have to complete a checklist to say they've done it. Secondly, when it actually comes to flying the plane, they are running a very well-defined and excessively rehearsed process. All of that means that you're pretty much guaranteed when you get on a plane and you will be delivered to your destination at the end of that flight. And most importantly, of course, you look at the number of crashes we see worldwide. There's very few accidents involving airlines, and that's because the airlines are very big on the systems and processes they have in place to make that experience as safe as possible. Now, I realize there's a whole debate here around the levels of service that you get in and out of the airport and the way you're treated on the plane, but the fundamental of what they do is actually an excellent service. So think about the processes that you have in terms of your delivery systems, your automation, the way that you're managing risk inside your business, making sure that your clients get a great customer experience, and of course, looking at how they're helping your business improve productivity. And then within the business, we have what we call key performance indicators. These are measuring the performance of different points of your business to make sure it's delivering in the way that you want it to deliver. And the idea is that you have a number of key performance indicators that you can look at as from a management level on a regular basis to check your business is running in the way you want it to. So that's everything from making sure that your sales guys are doing a brilliant job in getting customers and getting enough sales coming into the business, right through to the other end, making sure that all your customers are having an excellent experience and knowing what their customer satisfaction score is and how you measure everything in between. So ask yourself, what are your customer performance indicators? So look, let me give a real simple example of what this would. So if you look at most businesses, the business owner can tell you how many customers they've got. They can usually tell you what their revenue is, and they can usually tell you what the profitability inside the business is. But actually, although those are performance indicators, there's actually a number of other performance indicators in different areas of the business that build up to those numbers. So first thing might be the number of leads that marketing is generating. And of course, then the conversion rate that the sales team are getting in converting those leads into actual customers. Once you have the customers, of course, how often do they buy from you? How many times is a customer coming back and buying from your business? How much is the customer spending with you every time he buys something from you? And of course, the most important number of all, of course, is what's the profit margin? What is the profit in your business? So therefore, what is the profit margin on every sale that you make? So we start to put a few numbers against that just to work the example through. If your marketing campaign is generating 4,000 leads, your sales team then convert that into actual customers at the rate of 25%. So that means that your business has got 1,000 new customers per year being generated, and your key performance indicators are allowing you to see that you've got enough leads coming into the business and that your sales team are achieving a conversion rate that will make that number a reality. So you can then start to tie that back in to the revenue that your business is going to see. First of all, by knowing how many times per year your customer is going to buy from you. And this, we've put 2 in as the example. This could be a range. I mean, if you're running I don't know, a baker's shop or something, your customers are probably going to come into you once or twice a week. So realistically, you're going to expect your customers to do somewhere between 50 and 100 transactions with you a year. And the second part of that equation, of course, is how much the customer's spending with you each time. It would be a hell of a baker's actually if they spend £100 with you every time. But the point is the number of transactions. For some clients, it might be once a year. For some clients, some customers, it might be 10 times a year. But if you take the average across your business, the customers are buying from you twice a year. And on average, they're spending £100. So some customers might only spend £10 with you. Some customers may spend £1,000 with you. But if you average it out across your entire customer base, they're spending £1,000 per year with your business. And then you start to multiply that out. So we now know we've got 1,000 customers doing 2 transactions a year, buying from you twice a year. And on average, they're spending £100 every time they do business with you. So your revenue for the year is going to be £200,000. Not a bad little business. Of course, the number that really matters is your profit, which is going to be determined by your profit margin, which of course is then determined by your costs. And your profits is then going to be the profit margin. Your revenue times your profit margin tells you what your profit's going to be. So in this case, we've said £50,000. Now, the reason this is so important is because little changes to these numbers can actually make a big difference in the way that your business performs. So if we just, for argument's sake, increase the number of leads coming into your business by 10%, and that might be the result of a new marketing campaign or some other initiative, maybe you're doing a mail out or something, you increase the number of the leads into your business by 10%, taking it to 4,400 leads. And then you also increase your sales team's conversion rate by 10%. And that's quite likely just the impact of a little bit of sales training. Realistically, a 10% increase in conversion rate, you'll exceed that substantially with a little bit of sales training. Overall, though, the impact that has on the number of customers you have, it's not 10%, it's not 20%, but it's actually 21% increase in the number of customers you have, because the impact of those two metrics alone, those two performance indicators alone, is a cumulative effect. So it's a 21% increase in the number of customers that you've got. And then let's continue the example down. So if you increase the number of transactions that each of those customers are doing with you, so that might be through some sort of incentive, so maybe a discount card for regular customers or something like that, and also getting them increasing the average spend from each of your customers, so that it goes from increase that by 10%. So maybe you increase the average spend by giving them a free delivery over £100 threshold or something like that, something that encourages your customers to spend more money with you. Again, it's a cumulative effect. So we've increased the number of transactions by 10%, you've increased the average value of the sales by 10%. The impact that that's having on your revenue is actually a 46% increase in your revenue as a result of those pretty small changes inside your business. And just to finish that off, if you can then look at your costs, and it's usually quite easy to reduce the costs inside a business if you put a little bit of focus onto it. If you can just reduce your costs and get your profit margin up by 10%, get that up to 27.5%, the overall impact that it's having on your business is a 61% increase in the overall profitability of your business, simply by making a number of incremental changes in the way your business operates. It's very similar to when you look at sportsmen. They don't make wholesale changes to their whole performance. They are constantly looking for little improvements all the way through their fitness and the way they play their games and their skills, which overall add up to a big improvement in their performance as sportsmen. Exactly the same with your business as well. I mean, if you want to talk more about this, again, I'm happy to talk to any of you after this. We'll have a virtual coffee at some point and talk a little bit about how this relates more to your business. Interesting thing about this, actually, before I finish as well, is that if you keep doing this for 5 years, so keep making these little changes, these 10% increases year after year for 5 years, that £50,000 profit becomes £500,000 worth of profit, just by those incremental changes to your business. Something to think about. What do you need to do? What do you need to know? What are the key performance indicators inside your business? So obviously you need to know how many sales you've got. You need to know how many people owe you money, how many people you owe money to. You need to know your profit margins. You probably want to know how your team are performing. You need to know, of course, how much your staff are costing you, how much you're spending on marketing. What are the things inside your business that you need to know to effectively drive your business forward? Let's go off on a slight tangent. In most companies, the business owner takes responsibility for managing, first of all, his team. Secondly, he wants to be directly involved with his customers. And thirdly, he's directly involved in his business. And what this means is that the business owner is trying to do all three things and has very little time to do anything else. He's not really focusing on one thing and doing a great job with it. I suggest that we should rethink that model a little bit. And instead of the business owner being responsible for everything, the business owner actually uses his team to do what he's employed them to do. So the business owner works with his team by giving direction, leadership, paying the bills, staying profitable, paying wages, encouraging them, building the systems, everything that the business owner needs to do to support his team, to make them as great as they can be. The team will then support the customers with their skills, with giving great customer service, great quality and great consistency to what they do. And then the customers reward the business by doing business with you. The customer supports business by coming back more often because he enjoys the experience. Because he's coming back, he's spending more money with you, and possibly even more money each visit he comes back because of the service he's received. And of course, Ultimately, your customer is then telling his friends about your business as well, bringing more business in at the same time. And then finally, of course, the business is now supporting the owner through increasing profits. And actually over time, as the systems bed down, the owner has more time and can work less hours on his business or focus his time where he needs to inside the business. So having a great team allows the business owner to focus on running the business, not delivering the business. That's what his team are there to do. And of course, this has an interesting twist as well. So at the moment, as we mentioned right at the beginning, we are leading our teams remotely. Sometimes for COVID restrictions, even as a leader, you might not be on your premises all the time. A number of your staff, particularly in manufacturing and production, they are going to have to come in to do their work, which means you've got to think about their protection, PPE, social distancing. With the team you've got working remotely, the other thing that bothers all business owners, all leaders, is actually how do they know that their team are actually working when they're meant to be working? And then the obvious skills of leadership still continue. You've got to be a good leader, and you've got to make sure that communication continues as close as you can to the way it would do if you were all in the same building, if you were all in the same premises. Make sure that communication that goes on between people situated in the same location can continue, even though your team are now quite different places. Some are working at home, some are in some are on the premises, but having to work socially distanced. It puts a different dynamic on the way that we all work. Kevin Eckenberry and Wayne Tamel, they talked about this, the remote leadership, in their book, the Long Distance Leader. And they really break things down into these three key gears. They have the leadership and management gears, which is really traditional leadership. It's the behaviors that we are expected to exhibit as leaders, as business owners. Ones that start to change are the tools and technology. And the key thing to remember about the tools and technology gear is that we may not be comfortable with the technology that we are now expected to use. So the key thing underneath all this is to make sure that you are using the right tools for the job. So that might be zero. Obviously with meetings, particularly remote working, it's going to be things like Zoom or Teams, or even the traditional telephone. It might be Salesforce in the cloud or HubSpot, or it could be the CAD and design products that you're using inside your business, but making sure that you're using the right tools and the right technology to do the job. And then, of course, making sure that your team have the skills they need to use that technology and get the impact they're expecting to by being effective with those tools. The three components to remote leadership. So having sorted out the internals of your business, you've also got to think a little bit about the externals. So think a bit about your marketing message. Now, I think in the current climate, this is where compassion really comes into your marketing message. With COVID-19, people are needing a different message. And I think also what we're seeing is people have reassessed their values, and maybe the emphasis on work is starting to be more balanced with the need to be with your family and to get out of the house and do things together. And of course, the other side of this is that there's going to be a big emphasis as we come out of lockdown in the fact that businesses are probably going to be different to the way they have worked traditionally. But this is also going to have a big impact on the people who are working inside the business, and they'll need your support to get through that. So be compassionate in your marketing messages. Think about the situation that your customer base are finding themselves in and be sensitive to that position. Then make sure that you empathize and engage with your clients, and of course educate them as well. We need to move away from the, if you like, the traditional sell and ask that marketing has had historically, and move much more to an environment where we're helping people and giving them useful information, knowledge that helps them move forward. I think the bottom line is, in your marketing, make sure that you're adding value to whatever you're doing. And then shift your strategy. Help people to find you, because At the moment, it's very difficult for you to go to your clients in the way that you used to historically, because they are no longer all conveniently all based in the same building, in the same office. There's a lot of people that are working at home, and often from a sales perspective, the people that you need to communicate with. A lot of those people, of course, aren't back at home yet either, but some of the traditional ways of marketing have become less appropriate. So sending out mailings or cold calling and drop-ins are probably going to have limited effect at the moment. So you need to think of a different way of attracting customers to your business. And then once you've got the customers, the second part of this is focus on keeping your customers once you have them. So go back to your past customers. Don't lose contact people with people who've been spending money with you. Make sure you keep in contact with people who've expressed an interest, but concentrate on the cause of your business to make sure you're delivering excellent service to all of your existing customers. It costs a lot of money to get a new customer. You don't want to be losing them because of poor customer service. And so as you go online, a whole bunch of things that you do need to think about. So think about the needs of your customers. Might be appropriate to do a blog or even a vlog daily or weekly. Think about putting more social media posts out there and making sure that they're informative posts, not just asking for something. Video always attracts more attention on social media than simply pictures or text. So do some live videos or some interviews with people, and then add things that are of value to people as well. So add white papers and case studies to your website, offer people informative information to attract them to your site, or host a webinar. Host a webinar so people get to see, not necessarily to buy from you, but to understand that your business exists and that you can offer value to their business. Or then share things as well, share tips and tricks and checklists and job aids and things like that. If you're interested, go to our website. In the download section on the ActionCOACH Open website, there is a document, the Crisis Communication Tip Sheets will give you lots of good ideas of things you can be doing to improve the attraction of potential clients to your website, to your social media. See what I was doing there. So let's just do a quick ad hoc survey at this point. Just type into the Q&A box. All I'm interested to know is, when you make a buying decision, is it a logical or emotional decision that you are making? Do you want to just type that into the chat box? When you make a buying decision, is it a logical or emotional decision that you're making? Okay, then I was going to say pretty evenly split. I think the reality, it is an emotional decision that you make when you're making a buying decision. Most decisions are based on emotion. So the questions are, do I trust this person? Do I think he has my best interests at heart? Do I really want what he's offering me and is described in such detail? And then the question becomes, how am I going to justify this to the board of directors, to my wife, to my husband, to the kids, whoever else is involved in that decision-making process? The numbers are quite simply that the sales decision is only based 20% on logic. The majority of the decision, 80% of it, is based on emotion. And this is really where your CV starts to come into place. So the emotion is, they've made the buying decision, they now have to justify it to somebody else. So actually, the logical information you have to provide them is proven that you're a resilient supplier and gives you confidence in you being around in the future. That you've got a supplier who can grow in line with your business's requirements. That they're easy to deal with because they're in multiple countries, and also because their products are exclusive, they'll be more appealing to your clients. It's things like that. So the fact that you were founded in 2008, you are grown from a team of 2 to a team of 200 by 2018, that you originally started in Germany and now you're in the UK and the United States, that you're the only UK wholesaler of widgets, all become important information. These aren't the things that make the sale. This isn't what the customer is looking to buy. These are things that support that buying decision. The fact that you won the best widget design award in 2019, very important, because it's demonstrating to your client that the product has strong design. These are all things that then support the emotional decision that your client has made. The bottom line is, and Maya Angelou summarized this, is that the long-term memory, the right brain, is all about the creative music, emotions, and color. It's also about long-term memory. The left brain is about short-term. That's the memory and the logic. That's remembering lists, remembering numbers. It's the short-term recognition. The best way to get people to remember your business longer term is that they experience a great feeling when they engage with your business, which is the part that they will remember long term. Let me just finish off on this final point, very sensitive to the time. Think of your business, just step back a little bit, think of your business. So Alexander Osterwalder in 2005 developed the business model canvas, which was actually based on his earlier work around business model ontology. So the business model canvas basically is a strategic management tool for developing new or documenting existing businesses. And the whole point of it is that it breaks your business down into the component parts. It looks at your value proposition. It looks at the infrastructure you have in place. It looks at your customers and who they are and how you interact with them. And it looks at the controls, the financial controls and the logistic controls that sit underneath your business. And what it allows you to do is to break the business down into its components. So when you think about changing what your business does, it might not be as simple as just thinking about your product and what you can change around it, but maybe you've got a business and the easiest thing to change is the product that you sell, or at least start a new business using your existing business to manufacture and deliver it to your clients, maybe under a different product name, but think about actually the different components and what they lend to expanding your business in other ways. So think about this, I guess chilled food, let's use that as an example. So if you're a manufacturer of chilled foods, you'll have a supply chain providing the raw materials, you'll have a development team shaping the products that you're going to sell, developing the products that you're going to sell, you'll have a production line that actually makes those products. And then you'll also have a way that your clients engage with you, how they purchase from you, how they interact with your business, and of course, the distribution arm. And then underpinning all of that, you'll have the systems and process that make it work and the controls that are in place and the ability to take your money from the clients. But actually, if you look at the business and take away the chilled foods, maybe replace it with something like fresh cut flowers, the product has changed and the raw materials you buy have changed, and therefore possibly your production line and your design has changed, but you can still leverage the existing routes to market you have to your customers, to the products that, to the way they engage with you, to the way you distribute those products, both of which of course are going to be time sensitive. Chilled products and fresh cut flowers both need to get there within a very short period of time. The financial systems and the process systems that sit underneath it are all going to be fundamentally the same, even if you change the shape of your business a little later. Something to think about, looking at your business, trying to look at it through different eyes to see where the potential is for additional revenue streams inside your business. So fundamentally, just to finish this off, the process for success, think very carefully about what you need to achieve and when you need to achieve it by. Put that plan together, make it a detailed plan, make sure you define who is responsible for each of the components with each activity, when they've got to complete it by, and the quality standards that they have to work for, and then make sure that you execute, you and your business execute against that plan once you put it in place. just to finish that off, just think of it in these terms. So the bottom line for any business is to make sure that you've got a consistent delivery inside your business, and think about how you're going to measure that. Once you've got that delivery sorted out, you can think about how you market your business, how you differentiate yourself in the market, how you generate sales, and encourage your customers to become loyal, raving fans with your business. Once you've got that in place, you've got a stable business. So then it becomes about making that system more scalable, more efficient in the way it operates, and taking out some of the, if you like, the best endeavors that have possibly gone on historically. And then, of course, hiring great people to run your business for you. And at that point, you start to get to a point where you, as a business owner, taking yourself out of the business, and you can focus on driving the business, expanding the business, maybe starting up another business. Or potentially, as a business owner, you might have got to the stage where you're going, actually, I could do with a 6-month holiday, knowing that you can leave the business, come back to it, and you'll still have a thriving, growing business in the future. So that's pretty much everything I had for you today. Pretty much finished bang on time there as well. That's unusual for me. While I wrap up, just make a note of the 3 things that you're going to try in your business after the session. Just write those down now so you don't forget about it. And then focus on getting your business performing as you want it to, with regular growth, getting you the time to enjoy your success, and obviously have a team that you can trust and be proud of. So if there's anything I've talked about today that you'd like to ask more about, as I've said before, please contact me. Happy to have a virtual coffee with you, chat about any part of your business, or even if you want to, we'll give you a free strategy session for your business as well. So that's everything I've got. Thanks for your time today. Nicola, back to you.
Thank you so much. There was so much packed into that hour, I can't tell you, but I've made a couple of notes. I think the key takeaways I took from there was the 90-day plan, how important that is to really commit to paper how you're going to get from there to there. And I think that's really key. Communication, that whole, yes, you've got staff doing different roles, ensure that the communication is there so that those staff absolutely understand what it is expected of them. I was quite taken aback by the whole failure rates and the impact that could have on your profit margins. I think that's something that is key to take away.
I believe that's a big learning for a lot of businesses. I don't think,
yeah,
many business owners, I don't think they've ever made that connection as well. It's often something that takes a lot of business owners by surprise.
Yeah, that's quite a shock. But I would like to round up by thanking you so much for giving us your time today. And I'm sure everyone has found that really, really helpful. And I'd like to say thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Take care then. Goodbye.
Yeah.